yourself high five.
And we're not about to hook. You blew it!
I've been a huge mistake.
Better not half-ass it, old man.
And I have a right to know! I deserve answers!
What is up, guys? This is DDP back to talk a little bit of Cowboys football. I'm not going to mince words. They suck right now. Full-fledged suck. I mean, 3 straight losses is bad enough. But what's really frustrating about this team is that they routinely suggest in their play, like you look at New Orleans and you say, all right, you lost, but you held them out of the end zone and you held them to 4 field goals. You lose 12-10, that's pretty much unheard of. Like, that's something you can hang your hat on. Like, okay, the defense has figured it out. Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith both had good games. Good. Felt better about the defense at that point, and I had been sounding the alarm about the defense even through the 3-game win streak to open the year. Then you fast forward to Green Bay. You're like, okay, well, they're a porous run D. Cowboys got some things going against New Orleans, just not offensively like they would want. That was the outlier at the time. So you're like, okay, not a whole lot to worry about there. And the Green Bay Packers were without Devontae Adams too, so you looked at it and you said, cool. In Dallas, Aaron Rodgers, he's still that dude, but not to the extent he used to be. It seems like he has regressed a little bit. And so it was like, okay, here you go. And sure enough, Aaron Rodgers isn't even who beats you. Your porous run D shows up again, and Aaron Jones, who the 2 weeks prior had something like 22 carries for 44 yards combined, goes 19 for 107 and freaking 4 touchdowns on you. you fall behind 31-3 because the offense, even in the games where they did get things going this year, they've started slow every week. The Giants game, you can kind of be like, the first drive was good, and then they stalled out, had to settle for a field goal, I think, or was it a punt? It doesn't matter. Then they got going and didn't look back. But Washington was a really slow start. Miami was a slow start. And it's continued every week since then. The offense gets off to slow starts. The defense hasn't settled in, hasn't looked anything like it had against New Orleans. You're seeing an issue here with this. And as much as we talk about how this offense was different in weeks 1 and kind of week 2 as well, they have not kept that trend. The pre-snap motion's gone. The play action that they leaned heavily on, it was something like 47% of their passes in week 1 involved some degree of one of those two things. It was down to like 7% this week as far as play action. Like, they are not leaning on those things anymore. And it kind of feels like, for whatever reason, they've regressed back to who they are, right? Like, you can set a New Year's resolution. You can go out there and be like, we're going to do this and this differently. But ultimately, once you get to the end of January, maybe the start of February, you start to kind of slide back into those bad habits. You start to say, you know what? I'm a little tired today. I'm a little busy. I don't think I'm going to go to the gym this morning. And you start to just slide back into all those bad habits that you were trying to nip in the bud. And there you go. That's what they're doing. They have regressed back to the offense we thought they were. Very straightforward. They're running it. They had 26 first downs on Sunday. Pretty good performance in that respect, but they ran it on 17 of the 26 first downs. Zeke got his most carries of the year, 28 carries, 30 total touches. Okay, that's fine, for him to have his first big usage game of the year, but it all resulted in about 105 yards and a touchdown. Cool. Getting Zeke those touches does not change things. And when you saw Dallas come out in that second half, they regress back to it. They take on the personality of their head coach, both offensively and defensively, but particularly the offense. Jason Garrett is a very, very kind of buttoned up dude. If things get a little sketchy, if they're making mistakes early on, whether it's missed assignments or drops or whatever, he's going to tighten up and go, okay, we're going to simplify it. We're going to simplify the shit out of this, and we're going to just make sure we don't make any more mistakes. Dude, you play into their hands when you do that. If they already are figuring you out because you're taking such a simplified approach, they're just going to lean into that further. You then getting more conservative helps them. It's ridiculous. He doesn't play the situation. The Cowboys were down 12 in the fourth quarter, and he's still running the ball. We're not gashing him. I mean, it's mind-boggling, the decisions that they're making. And so many pivotal plays. I really, really do not want to complain about officiating because that feels hacky to me. It feels like excuses, and I'm not here about excuses. If you handle your business right, you don't have to worry about those controversial calls. And that's the difference, like it's ridiculous to point to those things. The swing moments, yes, they have the touchdown to Jason Witten wiped out because of what was called offensive pass interference. They have to settle for a field goal on the drive. That sucks. And yes, when you lose by 2, that's a big difference. Likewise, they had a play early on. This was a play call decision. When Dallas went for it on 4th and 2, first of all, 3rd and 1, they try and punch it up the gut with Zeke at the 8-yard line. I think at the time was the 7-yard line of the Jets. And Zeke's knocked back for a loss of 1 yard. Just tried to go right up the gut through the tackles. I understand that your right tackle was out and your left tackle was out, and so that's going to change how you approach the game a little bit. But it was so easy to predict. It felt like a give up. And then they're like, all right, 4th and 2, here we go. You want to see Dak run the ball? We'll have him run the ball. We're going to have him bootleg out to the side and try and get it on 4th and 2. Dude, at least be a little creative when you have him run. You know what I mean? Like, do an RPO or something like that. Do something that's going to make them wonder or guess. Instead, we turn it over on downs after a very rare interception this year. By the way, Jordan Lewis should get a lot more playing time because he's the only damn dude in this secondary that can actually produce turnovers. If he's good enough to guard Alvin Kamara, if you're like, hey man, this is our weapon for Alvin Kamara, and Alvin Kamara is one of the 2 or 3 best at his position in the league, and you're like, oh dang, okay, cool. So we should get more Jordan Lewis out there like in regular games, right? Not just always lean on Anthony Brown. Chris Richard's like, Nah, I don't like that. See, long arms, taller. Jordan Lewis, he's a little bit small. He's on the small end. Don't mind the fact that he actually gets turnovers from time to time for us. Dude, Dallas has 2 defensive touchdowns since 2015. That ranks last in the NFL in that span. Dallas has not produced turnovers in years, like at any healthy clip. Rod Marinelli, they just don't value it to the same degree that they should. They're like, hey, man, we'll be in coverage. We'll play them tight. We'll play them well. But our guys aren't going to get their heads back to look for the ball, and they're certainly not going to be in position to make a play on the ball. Remember when we were saying Xavier Woods was going to have a Pro Bowl type year with 4 picks? Dude, where have you been? You're good. Like, I don't see you getting burned out there a lot when right after the 4th and 2, the kick in the dick from the Jets with Robbie Anderson, the 92-yard touchdown pass. Xavier Woods wasn't out there. That was Jeff Heath and Cheeto. Cheeto bites, tries to jam him, bites, gets burned on a double move, and then Jeff Heath takes a bad angle. Shocker. And there you go. 92 yards later, game is swung. 10-point swing right there. Or 14 if Dallas runs a better play and gets the first down. They might get a touchdown there. It changes everything in that respect. Let me see here. It changes everything in that respect where you're almost at a loss because for the second straight week you were behind at least 21-3 in this game. I know the Jets. James and I, we talked about it throughout the week. I know he and I didn't do a show to talk about this, and because of a work thing, I had to go on late Friday afternoon. I didn't get a chance to do my preview episode with Law on Friday around 5. But we felt like this was a game the Cowboys could not overlook, despite the fact that the Jets were winless at the time, 0-4. Darnold was back coming off mono. He was a wild card, but if healthy, if he looked right, he was a guy that could burn you. And yeah, he did. Now, 338 pass yards and 2 touchdowns, that's sweet, but you got to keep in mind, 92 of those yards came on one play for one missed tackle. You take that out, he made some good throws for sure, but you take that out, his day is kind of pedestrian. Like it's nothing mind-blowing. So Darnold didn't beat you. Robbie Anderson beat you on the one play. I know he had 5 for 125, but again, 92 on the one play. Le'Veon Bell, 53 yards total. He had a 7-yard, a touchdown in the first half, I think, to put the Jets up 1-0 or 7-0. But that's it. Like, you did what you were supposed to do. You did what you were supposed to do. For the most part, you outgained them in yards. You didn't turn the ball over, unlike the Green Bay game. You possessed the ball longer. You did everything except convert for touchdowns. So you found a way to lose a game. I have the note here. This is a mind-blowing stat for the Cowboys that kind of sums everything up here. This is from Bobby Belt, at Bobby Belt, Texas on Twitter. NFL teams are 90-1 since 1991 when they win in time of possession, total yards, turnovers, pick up 25 first downs, and convert at least 10 or more third down attempts. Yeah, Dallas was 10 of 17 on third down, by the way. Dallas's loss on Sunday is the only time that team has ever lost. 90-1, we are the one. Not in a way you want to be. Not in a way you want to be. That's absurd. And it's crazy to lose that game. I expected it to be a tighter game than we anticipated, than a lot of people anticipated. Some people were running around saying like, "Oh no, they're gonna throw the kitchen sink out there and they're gonna win by 2+ scores again." I was like, "Nah, no, they're not. This is gonna be a tighter game." I think I had Dallas something like 27-21 or 20, Something like that was what I was talking about last week. And it was a one-score game, but geez, man. Brett Maher, here's an interesting footnote. It doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, but hey, it's his NFL achievement of his career. Only kicker in NFL history to have made 2 field goals from 62 plus yards. Only guy to ever make at least 2 62 plus yard field goals in his career. Pretty cool. I don't blame Maher for missing the 40-yarder, though. I mean, he was, 3 of 4 on the day, and he made a 62-yarder that put it to 21-6 at half, gave you some life. Then you got the ball and went down and got some more points. It's ridiculous to me, man. Like, I can't lay it at Maher's feet. People who are trying to blame Dak, are you kidding me? Could Dak have been better? Sure. But Dak was getting murdered out there. Dak had to get evaluated for a concussion at one point in the game. The fact that he even stayed in the game is a testament to his toughness because he was getting crushed on some of those hits. The Jets have a decent defense, and yeah, their safety, Adams, man, I like him a lot. If you got him, if you could add him, that'd be awesome. But Dallas isn't going to make any big splash moves. They've been pretty clear about that. It's just looking at it, and it's just looking at what the team is doing in the approach, and that's what's frustrating. Because the conservative nature, the predictable nature, isn't limited to just the offense. We talk about the offense more because that's the points, but the team still put up 22 points. And by the way, how they had 0 protection for Dak, a 0 back set on the 2-point conversion, knowing who the defensive coordinator on the other side is mind-bogglingly stupid. Dak gets killed again, and he's blown up as he's throwing the ball, so it spikes in the turf at Witten's feet, which, by the way, even if it doesn't, Witten was tangled up with the defensive back only 2 yards upfield, so it's within the 5 yards of legal hand fighting, and there you go. Stupid. Had no chance. But the defense is also just as vanilla at times as the offense. The defense in one drive alone gave up 4 penalties to the Jets, and that resulted in a touchdown for the Jets. And it seemed like from that moment on, even they got conservative. The Cowboys were 3-5 last year before the Amari Cooper trade saved the season. They've now lost 3 straight after starting 3-0 against 3 weak teams. And the Jets aren't a good team. They're not horrifically bad because they were without Darnold, and we saw from experience in 2015 how bad it can look when you're running scrubs out there at quarterback. So that tells you something. I get it, but it's abysmal to lose a game like this in this situation. The defense, up front, hot boys, drop the nickname, just drop it. You literally let the San Francisco 49ers, who initially were just plagiarizing the name, they're sweet. They're undefeated sitting over there, and they're actually living up to the name. Your hot boys aren't anything here. DeMarcus Lawrence, you faced a lot of double teams, but you're not doubled every play. You got like 7 tackles and 2 sacks on the year? Robert Quinn has bested you in that regard, and he got 2 sacks again on the day. Robert Quinn's the only guy on this line right now doing anything. It's crazy how at least you got around the ball, but you didn't make the plays when you had to make them. The team is making just a lot of mistakes. It looks like they've bought into their own hype, and it's killing them at this point because they still say, "Hey man, we just didn't execute. We just didn't beat ourselves. The other team didn't do anything. We just beat ourselves." You've said the same thing 3 weeks in a row. At some point, it just becomes a canned answer, and it's not even an actual assessment of the game. With the defense, you see how conservative they are. They don't run any stunts, or they'll run their stunts up front, but it's nothing exotic. No exotic blitzes, no unique packages or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward how they attack you. In fact, Sam Darnold said the same thing after the game when he was interviewed by it. This came from the Athletics' John Machota. He basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Darnold pretty much said, the Cowboys do what they do every week. They go out there, they're usually 1 high, the safety, sometimes 2, but they're very uniform in how that they present everything. So he knew exactly what we were going to do. Teams know what we're going to do. They looked back to that playoff game last year against the Rams, who exposed the hell out of us, and they replicated that. You know who else said they replicated that? New Orleans. You know who else said they replicated that? Green Bay. Interesting. It's like the good teams we've faced since then have used the formula the last good team that whooped our ass used, and it still works. See, last year's defense for the Cowboys was really good. Like, great. Not elite, but great. Why? It got stellar play from its linebacker position. Obviously, you had Leighton Vander Esch make the Pro Bowl, and you had Jalen Smith be considered a Pro Bowl snub. They're not living up to it this year, man. We thought Leighton Vander Esch was on his way to greatness. I can barely see the dude out there most of the time, and when I do, it's because he's getting juked out of his shoes for the 5th time by Aaron Jones. Like, good God, man. Jalen Smith, man, he's explosive and he's running in bursts, but you know what he's not doing well? Changing directions very quickly. He's blowing by the play half the time, even when he's rushing the passer. It's crazy seeing how far they've fallen off. And Jalen got paid, so we just got to hope that he figures it out. I mean, obviously you got to hope for both of them, but Jalen, we got the investment in him now. At least with Leighton Vander Esch being a first-round pick, he's on his rookie contract. So it is what it is. But man, oh man, that's the difference. The gap, like, we're a gap assignment team. Teams are exploiting those gaps because they know exactly how we're going to attack every game. The Cowboys go into this, whether it's offensively or defensively, they come in and they say, "This is who we are. This is how we attack." Other teams are like, okay, well, other teams have already put the blueprint out there for how to counter what you're doing, and we're a good team, so we actually have the talent that can do it. So then they do it. And suddenly the offense gets stifled, or at least held in check, or the defense, they get exploited. You know, we've had another game this year now where the run defense has been terrible. 3 out of 6 games, the run defense has been atrocious. I mean, there's no way around it. And the 3 games it wasn't atrocious was against teams that couldn't run the damn ball. Like, this team is not good right now. They bought into their own hype, and they still don't see it. They're still arrogant, and that goes all the way to the top. That's all the way to Jason Garrett. Garrett doesn't adapt from what he does, ever. We have talked about this for years. He comes out, he has his blueprint, and he rolls with it. If anything, if he changes at all, it's that he shrinks within himself and gets more conservative. More like, oh, we almost made a mistake there. Okay, I don't care that almost worked. We're going to back up, and instead of trying something else like that, we're going to just be very conservative. Do the simple things, the little things right, and it'll all work out. No, it won't. You have to plan and coach situationally. You have to look at what's working and build on it, even if it's not a main component of your game plan. You look at Bill Belichick, he figures out what's working in a game. He'll figure out what's working, and then he'll just twist that knife. He'll just continue to exploit that weakness. Garrett never does that. Why? Oh, well, it's not really in the game plan, and we just go out there and we just try and do the best, play our best football on every play, and go out there with a lot of effort. And no, dude, shut up. Miss me with that. I get that you're a smart guy. I also think that you're at times too, frankly, arrogant to see it. I think you know that you're obviously a smart guy, and so you insist that your way is right and that you know what you're doing, but you're coaching in a method that's 20 years in the past, maybe more. Like the whole lineup, and our guys our Joes have to be better than their Johns or whatever. I might have flipped that phrase, but that's not always how it's played. There's misdirection. There's all sorts of things like that. Tony Romo talking in the second half about how, the way he phrased it, I initially thought he threw just massive shade at Jason. I still think he threw shade, but it wasn't as bad upon rehearing it as I initially thought. he basically was talking about the offense and the change of what they're doing. He's like, okay, well, this is what they've always liked to do. Come out, run the ball heavily. I think they've run the ball 6 times already on this drive. And you can see Jason Garrett's footprints. I thought he said all over this offense. And I was like, bro, if you said fingerprints all over this offense, it just means that he's like kind of the puppet master over the top or the maestro, whatever, making things work. It sounds like you're the one doing it. Now, that could still be twisted or construed in a way, like if it wasn't going well, that, oh, yeah, Jason Garrett's fingerprints are all over it. But when it sounded like he said footprints, that sounds like he's walking all over it. He's just ruining. It's like walking through someone's sandcastle, right? Like, that was what I thought he was basically, like, alluding to. And I was like, dude, he is killing Jason Garrett out here. But then I heard it back and realized he said on, not over this offense. And I think it's basically like, I don't know, footsteps in sand. I'm trying to continue with my analogy, but I don't know. I still think he took a shot for sure. I think it was veiled. I think Romo tries to be classy for the most part, and so he'll try and package and protect how he says things, even when he is being critical. But it is what it is. The Cowboys don't have a leader. Like, Jason Garrett's not a motivator. Now, his teams have never quit on him, and that's commendable. That's impressive, because most guys, as long around as their team as you've been, with as little success as you've had, you would assume they would have quit on you, but they haven't. We said coming into the year that he had to get the team to the NFC Championship game to keep his job. I think at this point, yeah, I mean, if he got to that point, I think that would be the only thing that saves him, because I don't care about injuries. I know Lyle Collins was out, Tyron Smith was out. I understand that. I understand that Amari Cooper went down on the 3rd snap of the game for the Cowboys. I understand that Randall Cobb was a late scratch. I understand that Tristan Hill, by the way, was a freaking healthy scratch for the game again. We really need to start talking about this last draft class, because we still don't use Tony Pollard for anything. Remember when we drafted him, we're like, we're going to have a more modern offense. How our team's going to guard when you got Zeke and Pollard 1-2 punch. Ooh, on the field simultaneously. What are you going to do? We're not doing anything with that. We're not. We have completely abandoned Pollard, it seems like. Like, I know he got some snaps out there. Let me pull up his exact stat line. He was out there a little bit, but the way that we're using him is just not even close to what we need from him. Tony Pollard for the game, 3 carries, 13 yards. Yeah, that's it. 3 carries, 13 yards. He has had a game where he got blanked, had 0. Had another game where he had 2. The Dolphins game was the outlier, where he had his 100-yard day. That was the outlier. They're doing nothing with Pollard. Tristan Hill, motor and work ethic were major questions. Maturity, major question. It seems like when we draft for need with this team and not just taking the best player that's available, we're like, oh, well, we got to address this. It's a ridiculous situation where it's like, hey, this is what we need. Let's go get it. Well, yeah, he's got a high ceiling, but he's got all these issues with his maturity and his motor and all that. Stop being the girl who thinks you can fix everybody. You know what I mean? Don't just be like, hey, I met this guy. No, he's so great, but he's a little rough around the edges, but I can fix him. No, sometimes the person just is what they look like. He's 3 years at UCF. He is what he looked like, and at the end, he looked like a guy who, because of his attitude and maturity issues and all that, couldn't stay on the damn field. Ugh, man, so frustrating. So you're not using Pollard, your 4th round pick. McGovern lost for the year because of a pectoral injury. That happens. I'm not upset about that. Actually, you know what? I am upset about that, because if you drafted McGovern, the assumption was, okay, McGovern, you spent a 3rd round pick on McGovern. Great. Cool. So the assumption then is you're going to move McGovern into Connor Williams' place, and Connor Williams, after this year, was going to move to right tackle. He was a left tackle in college, but has the ability to be a right tackle, I think. right tackle when La'el Collins leaves because he's priced out of your range. Oh, but then you gave a 5-year deal to La'el Collins. Weird. That's contradictory. So now you've essentially wasted your second round pick on a guy that is a healthy scratch because of work ethic and how he's participating in practice. Your third round pick, yeah, he's lost for the year, and I'm not mad about that, but long term, you've just kind of left him in purgatory as a backup. And your fourth round pick, you're not freaking utilizing, even though he's the one guy that could contribute worth a damn to this team. We've drafted so well in recent years, but there is zero logic to what they're doing with some of these picks. Like, they're not utilizing. It is too early to obviously say, like, if a draft is a hit or miss. Obviously. But man, oh man, this draft in the first sample size does not look good. And that just complicates things because it's like sending mixed signals. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to go do. This is what we believe. Here's message A, but our actions are contradictory over here from message B. So which is it? Are you trying to throw everything in to win now, like the Amari Cooper deal, and the potential subsequent trade looked like a win-it-all thing? Now, McGovern selecting him, but then putting him back there because you're taking La'el Collins, not necessarily as much, but it's the team feels like it sees how close it is, and it's over meddling, or in the extent of Garrett and the coaching staff. Like it's like the opposite end. Instead of over meddling, it's like, you know what? We better simplify this. Let's simplify it. It's a joke. It is. I took heat in the first 3 weeks of the season for saying I saw red flags with the team, particularly the defense. Almost nobody wanted to acknowledge that or to believe that, like people who read my articles particularly. Now it's kind of played out sort of like I was warning it might. We faced two good teams and got our asses kicked, and then we just got humiliated. I said on the thumbnail of last week's edition of this show that we were humbled and humiliated by the Packers. I should have just left it at humbled because this was humiliation. This was a embarrassment, like pants down at your ankles, in front of everyone in your class. Embarrassment, like that is what this loss was to the Jets. So it's not good. I don't know what the team is going to do because now they have the difficult position where, hey, they got a lot of key guys hurt. We still got Woods banged up. Crawford, he came back, but he's still. He actually got punched in the back of the head in this game, which the refs didn't call, even though they were right there. You have these situations where you have all these guys banged up, some critical guys even banged up. Like I said, Dak evaluated for a concussion in this game. You asked for way more than you had any right to out of Brandon Knight. He still gave you a pretty good game, but like I said, the 4th and 2, bro, you ran to the edge where you had Cameron Fleming. What are you doing? Cameron Fleming has been hot garbage for us. To have to bank on him is a joke. There are so many issues with what we're doing right now, and I'm not saying they can't figure it out, but here's the thing. You've already lost conference tiebreakers to the Packers and to the Saints, both of whom look like they are probably going to win their respective divisions or at least be right there in the thick of it. Saints haven't lost a game with Bridgewater. Breeze is almost back. I think the Packers I didn't see what they did this week, but the Packers have been really solid as well. So you're in that bad situation there. And then you add into the fact that, okay, now here comes Philadelphia. And with the NFC East being 3-3, 3-3, 2-4, and 1-5, or whatever the Redskins are now after they beat the Dolphins, that's pretty much where you're at. Like, No one in the NFC East is getting a wild card. If you don't win your division, you don't even make playoffs. So for all that hype that you built up, for all that talking about how, ooh, hey, we are doing things smart, right? We got Pollard so that Pollard can get something like 8 to 12 carries a game and keep Zeke fresh. See, that's what we want to do, is we want to keep Zeke fresh so that come December, come January, and hopefully come February, he hasn't had as much wear and tear, and he's much fresher than he had been. Ooh, that's why we're going to take Jalen Smith and say, hey, you know what? As of the Miami game, we're only going to play 65% of the snaps instead because we really like Joe Thomas and we want to get him out there more. And that way, ooh, hey, we play less for Jalen Smith, and that keeps him fresher. Instead of having to play 600 snaps, he's playing 430 some odd snaps on the year if we had held that pace. And he'll be better in that time of year, too, for when he has to do that. This defense only was great last year, despite producing no turnovers, because you got stellar play from LVE and Jalen Smith when they both played at or right at a Pro Bowl level. Neither of them are doing it this year, and that's why the defense is getting exposed. That and because you don't have a real ball hawk safety. Chris Richard's system, the reason it looked so good in Seattle was because he had Earl Thomas back there to be Mr. Swiffer Sweeper, cleaning up all the messes on the back end. You can let your corners press if you got that elite guy in the back end of the defense who can do that. And hey, I like Xavier Woods a lot. I think he can be your free safety. But if you think Jeff Heath is anything more than a safety in a nickel situation, you're just wrong. Like, he's not bad, but he is unremarkable. He is not the kind of guy you need on the back end of this defense. And you had chances to go get someone in the draft. You had chances to go get someone in free agency, and you passed on it. You passed on it all. And now your defense it's not even good at this point. It's average. It is average. You can't produce turnovers to save your life. You barely get pressure on the quarterback. You only got really one guy who's doing it, and you're probably not even keeping him after this year. You traded a 6th-round pick to the Dolphins to get him, but he's going to be 30, I think, at the end of the year, or at least by the start of next year. So you're probably not even keeping him either. So it's just like, what are you doing? What is the plan? What is the thought process behind this? Because it's like you got all high on your own shit, and now that you're actually having to see what that looks like, it's getting exposed. You have to adapt to things. You can't stand still. And it's not just like player development, right? It's not just like, hey, I got to get better. I got to get stronger. I got to get faster. I got to be able to read the offense better, faster, and be explosive towards the ball. That's great. That's great. But it's also the coaching staff. It's also their ability to read and adapt to what the defense is doing. If you attack teams years on end in largely the same way, they're going to beat you. Do you know why you got away with it in 2014, 2015, and 2016? Hell, 2015, you didn't even have a quarterback who could throw the damn ball, and you didn't even get your backup running back into your starting role until week 6, and he was still top 5 in rushing yards for the year. Do you know why you were able to do that? Because for that 3-year span, you had unquestionably the best starting line, offensive line in football. Unquestionably. You know what's happened since then? Time has passed. 17, 18, 19. 3 more years have passed. So now you've paid big money to all these guys. And they're still very good. They're still, when they're right, a very good at times offensive line. But your Joes only beat their Jacks when you're substantially better because the way you attack is so vanilla. They see that. These teams see that. They look at how other teams play you, and they counter based on that. They game plan against you based on what they see. And the Cowboys go out there and they're just like, well, this is what we do, so we're going to go do it. No, you morons. If you don't take your head out of your ass and look around every now and then to see what are they doing? How are they doing this? Okay, well, they beat this team. Well, okay, we're facing them later. We've already faced them. My example here is, say, the Vikings and the Eagles. They just played. The Vikings beat the Eagles 38-20. Okay, Look at the tape. What did the Vikings do to beat the Eagles? Interesting. Okay. And we play the Vikings later this year. So, hey, it goes both ways. You see what other teams are doing and you adapt based on what you see that works and what you see that doesn't work. And it's not a crazy concept. And they tell us they do it, but then when you see the game plan roll out, it's like you told me that you watched the Vikings tape on the Eagles game. So why didn't you do any of the stuff that they did? Like it's infuriating to watch this team sometimes because they're so sure that they're the only smart guy in the room and that they know what they're doing, that when it comes time to actually stand up and prove it and it doesn't work, they're like, well, regardless of the outcome, I was right. What? Dude. Jason Garrett insists that, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones insist that Jason Garrett's job is not in any danger. I would actually argue, because of how forcefully they've said it, emphatically they've stated that today, I'm not sure it's true. If the Eagles come in here, Doug Penderson, their head coach, the Eagles head coach, has already said they're coming in here, they're kicking our ass, and they're taking over first in the NFC East. There's your bulletin board material. As if every other bad thing anyone has said about you, even stuff that we've said, that James has said, that I've said, that Law has said, even stuff that any of us have said, throw it all on the whiteboard or up on the chalkboard, whatever. There's your bulletin board material. Take all that. They're calling you out. You can say that we're not in it, so like that. Oh, well, we're not part of that, so we have no business talking about it. It's a joke if we talk about it. We don't have the credibility. Fine. He called you out, and he did it in a very direct and basically challenging your manhood way. So if you go out there and you fall behind 21-3, 31-3, whatever, you get your ass beat by the Eagles at home, yeah, you'll have lost 4 straight. You started 3-5 last year. You're 3-3 now. You would be 3-4 at that point. And there's not a miracle trade coming to save you this time. The Cowboys are not going to make a monster trade like they did with the Amari Cooper thing unless the perfect situation falls into their laps. That's just how it is. Like, they have to fix it with what they have now. And I think that they still have a good team. I think they have a very talented team. But the defense that we were told was going to be elite this year, top 3, they're barely average. The offense that we were told was going to be dynamic and modern day, they haven't been that since week 2. It was like in week 3 when Dak had 11 incompletions in the first half, and including that pick where he had all day in the pocket and he threw the deep ball and he got picked. It's like from that moment on, they basically like shrank back within themselves and said, all right, let's scale back by about 75% of that aggressiveness that we were showing. And that's the team. I can understand the New Orleans one. I can almost. No, never mind. I was going to say I can almost understand the Green Bay one. I can't. Especially against that team in your own stadium. That was shades of the 2016 playoff game when you fell behind. Hey, guess what? 21-3. It's ridiculous. There's no excuse for this. Regarding like, oh, well, if you did fire Garrett midseason, who's your interim head coach? Kellen Moore, 0 experience in that regard. And if you do make him your head coach, hey, guess what? Who's calling your offense now? Because you're going to have him do everything? That's not a great idea. Are you going to put Chris Richard there? I guess he's never been a head coach, but maybe. Are you going to put Rod Marinelli there? Well, last time he was a coach, he was 0-16 for the Lions. So, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, they're at a crossroads, and I get it. But the thing is, like, if you think back to when Jason Garrett took over, the team quit in Green Bay. They quit on Wade Phillips. They lost 35-7, and the players visibly quit on Wade. That's what they have to be at in this case. They would have to quit on Garrett. They've never done that, so I don't know. But the thing is, Garrett went 5-3 after Wade was fired and he was named interim head coach. And then he, among other candidates, I believe, interviewed in 2010. They ultimately chose to stick with Garrett, and Garrett has been there ever since. So, if you were to fire Garrett, yeah, you're probably not making playoffs this year, because no team, I can't think of a single team who's ever fired their head coach mid-season and then still made the playoffs. But you get a glimpse at, if you're interested in the Chris Richard head coach thing, okay, you'll get a glimpse at him. You'll get, however, a little over half the season to actually see him in action and determine what you think. And then after that, you can decide in the offseason what you want to do. If you really think you can go get Lincoln Riley, I don't think you can. But if you really think you can, well, okay. You can't go get him if you don't open up the job. And hey, if you're acknowledging this is where it's at, that the preparation of the players isn't there, that the scheme isn't making sense, that the conservative nature isn't making sense, or hey, if you just want to call about Jason Garrett's whack-ass clock management skills, all of that's valid. When the Cowboys, before they get their last touchdown, he takes a timeout with 47 seconds left, it's kind of amazing because you're looking at it and you're like, we're rolling right now. Why are we taking this timeout? And he's like, I just wanted us to slow down and make sure we didn't get too far ahead of ourselves and make a mistake. Well, we're rolling. We're moving the ball. Dak, throughout his entire career, when you've let him go to a hurry-up offense, that has been when he has really gotten things going. That's when the offense moves and they make plays. So why are you calling a timeout with 47 seconds left? All you're doing is stopping the clock, which says, hey, if we do score, now we're going to leave a little bit of time on the clock for the Jets to possibly get into field goal range and do something for themselves. Why? We saw that in the playoff game in 2016 as well. Dak tied the game and was moving the ball again, and then Garrett calls a timeout. They talk about it, and when they come back from their TV break or whatever for the timeout, the offense goes a little bit further, but I don't think they get another first down, and then they have to punt, and then, oh, look, because of that timeout you took, you also left more time on the clock, and here comes Aaron Rodgers for you. Yep. Field goal as time expires. Like, it's in Garrett's nature. He sees things. It's like he can't handle the excitement, the moment of it. Like, things start rumbling and things start going, even when they're going in his favor. And he's like, it's to him, it's like this ball that's ricocheting down or like flying down this narrow track. And it's flying, but it's on the track. And if he sees even the slightest wobble, even if it hasn't gone off the track, he's like, I gotta stop it. I gotta control it. I gotta hold it, and then we'll reset. And then when we're ready, we'll put it back on the track and try and send it back on its way. No, what are you talking about, dude? If you want it to knock down the wall at the end of the thing, you can't kill its momentum and then set it back down where it is. You have to let the momentum build and go off of that. That's not what Garrett does, though. And we've seen that throughout his entire coaching tenure. The Cowboys got to do something. There's been one, as Law Nation talked about in his post-game video, there's been one common denominator in this entire 10-year reign for Cowboys football. It's been Garrett. We fired offensive coordinators. We fired multiple. We fired defensive coordinators. We fired tight ends coaches, quarterback coaches, like passing game coordinators. We've gone through everybody that can be fired except for Jason Garrett. There's got to be something there. Eventually, when you've whittled away everything else and you're staring at the one constant, there's got to be an answer for you in there. He's not a bad coach. Damn sure not a great coach. And I have never looked at a game. I've never looked at a game of his coaching tenure. And when I said, okay, let's look at the quarterbacks, Dak Prescott versus Carson Wentz. That's about a push for me. Amari Cooper versus Alshon Jeffrey. Cooper. as I'm going through this and I'm like talking about defensive line, offensive line, secondary, linebacking core. As I go through all this, every time I hit coaching, Jason Garrett versus blank, never once have I said, Garrett. Know why? Garrett can't beat a rookie head coach to save his life. He can't. He gets outcoached by rookie coaches. Guys with seemingly no experience. I know Adam Gase isn't a rookie head coach, but he was not a good coach either in Miami. So it's kind of like, I don't know, dude. Here's the thing, too. I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but I'm just going to phrase it this way. Think of it like this. In all major North American leagues, I'm talking NFL, NBA, MLB, throw in NHL. Take coaches in those 4 major sports who have been with their team for more than 10 years. How many of them, of that who have been there for 10 years, have eventually won a championship? Who hadn't won it before and eventually won it? It's a damn short list. Garrett's been here as the head coach. This is his 10th season, but he had the half year as the interim head coach, and he had 3 years as the offensive coordinator. We've literally been running his system since 2007. Why do we think he's going to break through magically? There's no reason. We just don't want to be wrong. Jerry Jones doesn't want to be wrong. He believes that he's a good enough head coach, and that if we have the talent, it won't matter. And hey, if we have the perfect health situation, haven't had that this year, and the perfect talent on the field, maybe it won't, except for the fact that 2014 was good enough to win it all. 2016 was good enough to win it all. And I still think 2018 was good enough to win it all. How many great teams do we have to get him? I mean, it's ridiculous. At some point, that leash has to run out. His contract's up after this year. There's nothing on deck for a new one. If he doesn't make the NFC Championship game, most believe he's gone. Because I'm sick of all the injuries. Oh, Romo got hurt. Oh, Dez got hurt. Oh, we were dealing with issues on the offensive line. Oh, all these injuries on the defense. Everybody's got injuries, bro. You've had several years where you had very few or none. And in the big moment, you still can't get past the freaking divisional round. Some point, something has to change. There's only one thing left to change. The players are good enough. But if you don't have fire, if you don't have passion, yeah, Chris Richard's got a lot of that. But I don't know if Chris Richard's the answer as a head coach. I think he's gone after this year too, because unless we make him our head coach, I think someone will give him that opportunity. But I don't know. I don't know. Oh, long rant. Shout out to everyone who's in the chat. Glad first in the house. Stevie Mac, Eastside Herald, even though you're here to troll. Whatever. Stevie Mac, what's good? Abraham Young, what's up? 1 decade of nothing. Jason's a bad one. I agree. Texas T, 346. I wasn't even mad we lost DDP. I just sat back and laughed because I wasn't surprised because it's the same shit every year. Pretty much. Cowboys X Factor, what's up? Stevie Mac, if we lose against the Eagles and Giants, I say abandon the season already and stock up on picks. It's going to be a while. I don't think they'll ever quit completely on it, especially when Garrett's coaching for his life. Every win will matter to him, but I don't know. We'll see what they do. The Cowboys have never gone full tank. 2015 wasn't even an intentional tank. It just worked out that way. That's how they got Zeke. I honestly feel bad for Garrett, man. This is first name, last name. He seems so dead and defeated in the players, not giving him a high five. Disrespectful AF. I know I shared that too, but I shared the video of it just to kind of get everyone's thoughts on it. But man, at that point, the game's basically over. The defense gave up. They're down 24-22 at that point. There's 3:46 left. The team's failed at that point, especially the defense. So, yeah, they came up. They came off the field. They're not looking for like, ha, 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 yeah, high five, coach. They're coming off the field, and they're like, dude, what the hell is happening? Like, it's kind of like you're walking off that. Think about it. You have an awful day at work or school or whatever. Like, you can't get anything right. You fail a test or you bomb a presentation or something like that. You got chewed out by your boss. You come home and someone's like, all right, high five. You're probably like, man, I'm not feeling it. Like, no. I don't read too much into that. I think there are plenty of reasons to look at why that was really bad for us, but I don't think the low five, high five, whatever, is a sign that he's lost the team. I think you see those moments pretty much throughout the year in all sports. Corona King 13, third straight loss. He has 4. Not sure what that is. Devin Smith inactive as well. Yep. By the way, happy birthday tomorrow. Early birthday. I know he's out tonight already celebrating to Big Game James. That's why he's not with me tonight. Mike Jackson, practice squad. Joe Jackson, nowhere to be found. Jelks IR stash. Weber practice squad. Could have signed TJ McDonald for strong safety on the cheap 1-year deal. Instant upgrade over Heath. I agree. What's up with Heath? Does he have some sort of entitlement? Again, I think Heath and Woods are your 2 best safeties, and the Cowboys don't value that position highly. Just like they don't typically like to draft a defensive tackle high, and when they do, it bombs in their face like this because they did the whole, we can fix him! Oh, we'll just get him here with us, and we can really coach him up, and we'll fix him. No, you're not. He's going to be another freaking Taco Charlton at this rate. Hell, at least Taco was active most of the time. But I digress. We don't value safety. We've proven that. Otherwise, we've needed a damn good safety for like 4, 5, 6 years, and we don't go get them. We just rely on what we got because we're like, good enough. Torres Carson. Should have kept Sean Payton. That is going way back. But yeah, in hindsight, yep, should have kept Sean Payton. Easy E, they're awful. They're playing awful. Dale Davis, they need a real coach. Yes, they do. Solar, good point. Not sure which one you're referring to, but I agree. I did make a good point. Aram, is he tanking? Talking about Jason Garrett, I'm guessing. Garrett's not tanking it. It would destroy his job before he even got to the end of the year. We fired Bill Callahan after a solid 2014 offense for the Linehan sandwich. No, that's actually not correct, Stevie Mac. Linehan was brought in earlier. Linehan was brought in for the 2014 season. It was after 2013 we brought in Linehan and took play calling duties away from Bill Callahan after a third straight 8-8 year. And in that situation, Callahan was basically demoted to just offensive line coach, which is what he does now for the, well, actually now he's interim head coach for the, I almost said Wizards, amazingly, for the Redskins. And so that's where he's at now. But we reduced him to just the offensive line coach, which, by the way, was a big loss when we lost him. But because we had effectively demoted him for the last year of his active deal, he was like, yeah, no, I'm out and I'm going to Washington, your division rival. We didn't fire Callahan. We demoted him, sure, because his offense wasn't working either, but still, he was a damn good offensive line coach. Gase wasn't horrible in Miami. Tannehill got hurt at the end of his first season, and that was basically it because he lost the starter and had nobody else. Plus, the front office is awful. They are an awful front office. Injuries happen everywhere, and yeah, it can put you behind the 8 ball, but I just don't think Gase is that great of a coach, personally. Dim Boys 27, what up? Someone queue up Tupac changes. There you go. Waste of a pick on Hill, Juan Thornhill, or Savage. I agree, Arthur. Those were the 2 guys that I had really a lot of attention on at that part in the draft. When I heard about the draft pick of Hill, I've seen him play in the past in college, and I was like, ooh, wait, And I had to think about it for a second. I was like intrigued, and then I thought about it. I was like, wait, there's a reason I wasn't thinking more about him. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, this isn't good. This is not. They're trying to fix someone again, and that doesn't work. Taco was the same way. They're like, well, hey, we said we need a war dad, we need a pass rusher, and for whatever stupid reason, we're not convinced that TJ Watt can put his hand in the dirt and rush the passer. So, you know what? We think he's a better fit for 3-4, which, by the way, he is. That's why he's shining as a linebacker for the Steelers. But they made that assessment and said, there you go, Taco Charlton, that's our man. Who cares about his maturity problems and his lackluster motor? Oh, that bombed out before the start of his third year, and we had to cut him? Ooh. Tristan Hill, come on down. Like, dude, why? I also think they're not playing him to his strength, which is even stupider. You're setting a guy up to fail when you do that. Start Donovan Wilson at safety, asks Easy E. Not yet. I think he could be a good guy for you there. I don't know that he's your starter, and health has always been an issue for him, like with Texas A&M. But I do like a lot the ball hawk nature he brings, because literally no one else has it. So if you could get to a point where you have Woods and Wilson back there, next year potentially, if Wilson can stay healthy and make a jump, I'm down. But if not, we still got to do something to address it. The problem is Jerry. He won't fire himself, says Clay Cup. Yeah, we know the Jerry Jones, the general manager. Jerry Jones, the owner, will never fire Jerry Jones, the general manager. We know this. And that's just the way it is. We're stuck with that until Jerry eventually dies or just completely goes senile and has dementia, which, I mean, I say that would end it, but we saw towards the very end with Al Davis, that didn't get him out of power in Oakland. So pretty much until Jerry passes away, we're with what we got. Stephen Jones, I think, is better, but I still think Stephen has some Jerryisms to him, obviously being his son, that can still be downright frustrating in their own right. But anyway, I digress. I think I'm going to wrap up this show, guys. Thank you for those who tuned in. I did a quick run through all the comments there. I know it sucks right now. It's not fun. The team is way underperforming. This is not the team we thought we were going to have. I'm starting at this point to wonder. Now, Vegas can't know this when they made their predictions, but Vegas told us this was an 8-8 team, and everyone here was like, they're crazy. This is at least an 11-5 team, and that's what I predicted, 11-5. But you know what? I had us starting 6-1, so I did have us losing to the Saints. Although at the time I didn't know the Breeze was going to be out, but that's about what I had them slated at, 11-5, and I thought, no, they're sleeping on this defense. I thought the defense was still going to be our strongest foot forward, and that the offense, even though it was modernized a little bit and improved, that it was going to be what was really complementing the defense. No, not at all. The defense is just average. It's an okay, not great defense. It can play good, but it doesn't play great, except for New Orleans, and New Orleans was short on firepower at the time. In the offense, they showed a glimpse that they could, like, okay, it's fine, we'll hold the defense up, and they're still averaging like 23 points a game. Okay, that's something, I guess, but it's not enough. It's just not. Like, you have to do the little things, and you have to win. You look at it and you say, hey, that broken that busted coverage that led to the 92-yard touchdown, that plus the 4th and 2 play. There's 15 seconds or whatever of game time in which you lost. Those two plays, critical swings. By the way, on 4th and 2, Garrett, at the time you were down, I'm trying to think of what the score was at that point. You take the kick. Just take the kick. You just got a turnover. It's critical to get points here. Just kick the field goal. It's a chip shot. Make it a 9-point game, or not a 9-point game, but give you 9 points at that point. Instead, you go to Dick Kick City, and then they kick you in the dick again with the 92-yard touchdown play the very next play. Got to do something, but we'll figure it out. We'll keep rolling. Luckily, the Mavericks are starting up here very soon. In fact, they've been playing here tonight. I've been recording highlights and stuff from that, so I'm going to revisit that so that I can talk about them probably Wednesday night for Mavs fast break. I see they won 107-70 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder did not play everybody, but saw some good stuff from Luka and KP. So that's going to do it for my time. Thank you again to those who tuned in. We will be back. Hang tight, keep your heads up, and remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.
Hey, this is Dark Avenue, and remember, every legend was once a prospect.
High five.